Welcome back to the Coffee Hour. I'm Andy Bates.
I'm Sarah Gulseth.
It is National Lutheran Schools Week, and got to enjoy fantastic music from many, many musicians yesterday.
It was incredible. And you can still watch, hopefully, the video if you go to Facebook, facebook.com/KFUO radio. You should be able to still find the Facebook Live video that we did.
We shared from LCMS.
From LCMS schools.
Schools, yeah, Lutheran schools. So
yes.
National Lutheran Schools Week.
It is.
And
pretty great.
It is. And so an educator from one of our favorite Lutheran schools.
Yes.
We love all the Concordias. We're extremely grateful. Well, and we're extremely grateful to Concordia University, Wisconsin for supporting the Coffee Hour.
We are.
We're also grateful to our alma mater.
Concordia Chicago.
It is Concordia Chicago now, yes.
When I was there, it was Concordia Chicago.
It was Concordia River Forest when I was there. It was not Concordia Addison when I was there, so I'm not that old.
You just missed that one.
I just missed that one. I'm not that old. Dr. Maurice Boyer, Director of the American Kantorei and Professor of Music at Concordia University Chicago. Dr. Boyer, thanks so much for joining us in studio.
Nice to be back.
So celebrating National Lutheran Schools Week, part of celebrating National Lutheran Schools Week, we had 4, I believe, schools here and the American Kantorei here for chapel yesterday, and sharing cantata and all the school choirs joining together. 140 students singing,
like that, yeah.
I think, with the Kantorei.
Singing in German.
This is true. The English translation was in the bulletin, so we at least had that. So that for those of us who don't know German,
you weren't fluent in German. Sad day.
But the Kantorei. Tell us a little bit about the Kantorei and the connection with the Bach cantatas that make up a large portion of what the Kantorei sings.
Sure. So the Kantorei is an ensemble, both instrumental and choral, that has been in existence for quite some time now. The origins go back into the late 60s, but in its most recent sort of configuration, it came back together in the 90s, early 90s. And the focus has been pretty exclusively on Bach, though not solely. Since I took over about 6 years ago now, the focus has been almost exclusively on the cantatas of Bach. We've done a couple of the masses, the shorter masses, and some motets, but mainly cantatas. There's a huge corpus of music that is not very well known and that is so rich, intended for the liturgy. It's just great for audiences to get to know, and also for the singers. I mean, I think it's enriching to get inside this music, which has so much to say.
Yeah. Why is it important to keep the music of Bach alive today and to keep bringing it back in front of audiences who may not be familiar with this style of music? Sure.
Well, I think there are a few things one can say about that. First of all, specifically for a Lutheran context, it really connects with the heritage. And we don't exist in a vacuum. None of us does. And sort of knowing where we come from enables us to go someplace in the future in a meaningful way. And certainly Bach, by virtue of the fact that he uses chorale tunes and, he connects himself to the greater church because a lot of these tunes precede him. So he inserts himself within a tradition and passes that tradition on. So that would be one thing. The other also is just that this music is just such tremendous depth. It's kind of unique. I mean, not to say that there aren't other great pieces. I mean, goodness knows I adore Mahler and Mozart, but there is a different dimension, I guess you might say, with Bach. And it is at once very specific and very much intended for a church setting, for the liturgy. The cantatas were performed in the context of a Gottesdienst. Or Vesper service, but it also has sort of maybe by virtue of the fact that it is so specific, it also has kind of a universal reach to it, and I think even non-Christians can really grasp the depth of what's going on in this music. So I think it it has just broad reach, I guess one might say. So those would be two things that I would say about the music. I also just love it. So.
Well, that is a very valid point.
Can you just talk about Bach for a while, and I'll just sit here and listen, because I'm always fascinated.
We keep having these story times about music this week. This is great.
True. This is true. Tell us about. Here's a fun question.
Oh boy.
How are you like Bach?
Oh boy.
Oh my.
How are you like Bach? How might you be different from Bach? I mean, obviously, you with your work, you've not only know his music, but I mean, you know so much about him and his history as well. Well, what's your connection to Bach?
Oh my goodness. Well, I mean, my connection to Bach goes way back to my childhood for sure. Started singing his music early on, but I'm a pianist by training, and so I started playing inventions and preludes and fugues, and then symphonias, suites, all those sorts of things.
By the age of 3?
I wish. No, but anyway, so the music was very much a part of my my upbringing. So it's been with me for a long time. I guess it's hard to say. I mean, boy, with such an extraordinary musician as Bach, composer, I guess the things we may have in common is our faith. Mm-hmm. And certainly the Christocentrism of the Bach's faith, and the desire to be good news through music. Mm-hmm. That's probably the biggest thing that we have in common, I would say. It's definitely music that it's like a sermon in song, and it wants to impart the gospel. Mm-hmm. So. Yeah. That's certainly what I hope my music making is about, even when there is no text. I hope it can be, in its own unusual way, still good news for people. Point beyond themselves to something greater.
Sure. So when we have you in here, we're generally only talking about Bach and the American Kantorei, but it's Lutheran Schools Week this week, which means we also get to talk about Concordia. And you get to teach music and conduct music groups at Concordia. What do you enjoy about doing that, about sharing this vast amount of music with these students at Concordia?
Well, one of the things I like about the position there at Concordia is that I do a lot of different things. Mm-hmm. I don't always work with what is Schola Cantorum, which is the chapel choir, but I do every now and then. And what I love about that is, again, it's being involved in the worship life of the school. Mm-hmm. And so it's, for me personally, it's something I love to do. It's as a gift to the congregation, you might say, to the school. Pastor Jeff Leininger is one of my dear friends, so I love to collaborate with him. Mm-hmm. But it's also, I think, a rich thing for the students to work on repertoire and figure out how it fits within the liturgy, even for those who are not musicians, mm-hmm. to participate in that kind of offering. With the women's choir, it's a similar kind of thing, but it's we perform less for chapel, but it's, again, as with all these vocal ensembles, but also the chamber orchestra that I work with. Mm-hmm. I always go for the spiritual core of music. And again, I go back to what I said a second ago. Even if there is no text, to me, there's always some kind of spiritual core. Now, that may sound a little nebulous, but there's something richer there than just sort of frou-frou kind of feeling kinds of things. But just even just the masterful construction of a piece of music, the architecture of something, just like the architecture in a church mm-hmm. is part of the whole experience of the church. Similarly, in music, entering into that space can just open the mind, open the heart, and through those kinds of discussions with the students, it opens up all sorts of other possibilities for dialogue and exploration. What I do love about being at Concordia too is that I don't have to shy away about faith matters. Mm-hmm. I can open up, I can share, we can dialogue, we can just go deeply into things without fear of censorship.
Right. Yeah.
So. And being at the university, well, you get to interact with and teach many students. Some who are there simply because they love music and it's a part of their education, but some that is their education. They want to be. They're going to be music educators as well. What is it that you want to instill in those music educators during their formation at the university?
Well, there are a number of things. I think the core, the most important thing is just that that what they're involved with is something spiritual, something that demands integrity on their part and the integrity of preparation to go as deeply as they can into the music, to really know it. That they can't just wing it. It's that's why I said integrity, that they really need to spend the time that is demanded of them in order to be the servant that they need to be. So basically, being a servant of the music in order that you might be a vessel of the music and send the music out there to whoever's in front of you, whether it's a choir, an orchestra, an audience, all of them, so that you can really be a channel. So preparation, so the skills that one needs for that. And that it's not just about getting it right. It's not just about getting the notes in the right place and whatnot. That's just the first step. What really matters is communication and communion. So.
Sure. We have just about a minute left, so this might be a big question for 1 minute, and I apologize. But how have you seen this setting of Lutheran education, teaching music of the church? How have you seen that make a difference in students' lives?
Well, I guess one might say that with the students, they come from different kinds of backgrounds. Obviously, some have a lot more, religious education, more, sense of how they fit into the greater church than others. But I think music has just a very direct way of involving people in that experience. So it's not just a cognitive thing. I think it's easy to kind of divorce the brain and the heart. And I think if it's good music and a good text, it has the capacity to engage both at the same time. So did that answer your question at all?
Yeah,
absolutely.
So, yeah.
Dr. Maurice Boyer, Director of the American Kantorei and Professor of Music at Concordia University Chicago, thank you so much for being our guest on the Coffee Hour.
My pleasure.
I'm Andy Bates.
I'm Sarah Gulseth.
The Coffee Hour with Andy and Sarah is a production of KFUO. To support the Coffee Hour and KFUO Radio, visit kfuo.org. You can also text KFUO to 41444 or send an email to gifts@kfuo.org. And you can call us at 800-844-0524. KFUO. Christ for you, anytime, anywhere.